All right, we can get started. Today's the first day back, obviously really excited. You know, the one thing I think that's the first thing that jumps out at you, we had position meetings this morning and a walkthrough, which you're allowed to by NCAA rules, is just the youth of this football team, I think, is kind of jumps out at you right from the start. We have 14 seniors on this football team. Only 8 of those guys have ever started in a football game here at the University of Oregon. And then I had to look the number up when I came up here, but we have 43 either true freshmen or redshirted freshmen, so 43 kids who have never set foot on the field to play here. So we're going to be a young football team. We knew that coming in. We lost a great group of kids that graduated last year and you know, really set the tone for how this football program should practice. We've always believed that our preparation is the key to our success. I hope those younger kids were paying attention when those older kids were getting everything done last year, just to kind of figure out that they can learn from them. But it's also an exciting time. I think in college sports, which is different than professional sports, is you don't get to keep your team for an extended period of time. And kids are going to graduate and kids are going to move on. And then our jobs as coaches is to kind of find out who's the next one. And my first year here as an offensive coordinator in 2007, we had a great team offensively. We had Dennis Dixon and Jonathan Stewart. You had Jeff Schwartz, Josh Chergy. You had Garen Strong, Brian Pasinger, Cameron Colvin. We had just a great group. And I remember my good friend Ted Miller saying his only prediction to start the season was that the only thing that he can really predict is that Oregon will not lead the Pac-10 in total offense with 462 yards a game and 38 points. And he was 100% right, because we led it again the next year with 482 yards a game and 41 points. But no one knew who was going to be the next Dennis Dixon. No one knew who was going to be the next Jonathan Stewart, nor did I. You know, so right now we have some holes to fill on the offensive side of the ball, and it starts up front. You lost both Rand and C.E. Kaiser and Jordan Holmes, and you know who's going to take those 3 guys' spots. That's what camp is about. You know, who's going to replace Jeff Mail and Drew Davis out wide? Those are some big question marks for us, and we think we got some young kids that have athletic ability, but we won't know until we actually get them out there and see what they can do. And it's the same thing for us defensively. You lost 3 defensive linemen in Brandon Bear and Kenny Rowe and Zach Clark. You lost 2 great inside linebackers in Casey Matthews and Spencer Pasinger. You lose Talmadge Jackson, who was really just kind of the rock out back for us in the secondary. So that's what this is about, and that's what starting camp is about. It's getting ready and seeing what the 2011 team will be different than the 2010 team, just like the 2010 team was different than the 2009 team. I know our coaching staff is excited. Our players are, according to our strength and conditioning coach, had a great summer working out, and now it's time to see what those guys did since we've been away. Last time we saw them was April 30th, and now we're getting ready to go. So our first practice will be this afternoon at 1:15, and we're excited. So with that, we'll open it up to some questions.
Hey Coach, how's it going?
Hi Jen.
47 points averaging last year, 530 total yards. What's the encore? How do you improve this season on amazing stats like that?
We're not really concerned with the statistical part of it, really, because the first step for us is how do you replace Jeff Mail and Drew Davis and some of those key and those 3 offensive linemen. So the first step for us that we're going to really concentrate on as we start here during the preseason camp is where are we up front? And we have some players. You know, Darian Weems has played a lot of football for us. Mark Asper's played a lot of football for us. Carson York has played a lot of football for us. Nick Cody's played some. Ramson Gopassion has played a little bit for us. But there's some other guys that it's anxious to see where Ronas Grasu fits in, anxious to see where Carrington Armstrong fits in, anxious to see Hamani Stevens, who's been away on a mission. You know, he'll be in the mix. Ryan Clanton is a young man we brought in a year ago that we were fortunate enough to redshirt. So those guys will be thrown in the mix, and it's really trying to find out. We're always going to play 7 or 8 guys up front. You know, who are those 7 or 8 guys? And it starts up front. And whenever we've been very successful offensively, it's because of those guys. Now, last year, obviously, we led the country in scoring. We led the country in total offense. But all 8 of our offensive linemen were returners. There were no new guys that we had to break in, so they had the benefit of experience on their side. And the only thing you don't have the benefit of with that group is I think they're athletic enough, I think they're physical enough, it's just they don't have game experience, and there's no way to manufacture that until we get them into a game. So the statistical part of it, and we've never put goals that we're going to score this many points or have this many yards. It's about, you know, how hard are we going to play and what effort are we going to get out of our players. And if we get the effort that I think these guys are capable of, I think we're going to be okay.
more real quick follow-up. With that effort, we see the tempo. How might that lack of depth that you've talked about affect your tempo?
You know, we hope it doesn't affect our tempo because that's what we do. You know, it's lack of depth more from an experience standpoint. We still have capable bodies we can put in there. So, you know, we've always felt that the pace that we play at is an advantage to us, and we'll continue to do that. And actually, really, one of our goals is to see if we can play faster than we played last year. So, Ken? Microphone? I can hear him, but...
Over there real quick. Again, amplify if you could, since I have a hard time hearing the question from here.
Last year, Darren Thomas was a first-time starter. He had not had a lot of action. He played pretty well. How much better can he play, and how big a factor will that be in how you do this year?
Good question. It's a huge factor, and at this point last year, I think the one question mark we had offensively was who was our quarterback going to be, and it was a heated battle all the way up until the first game between him and Nate, and then we made a decision that we were going to go with one, and I want to go with one quarterback. I think when you have two, you don't have one, but for Darren to do what he did last year, you know, to go undefeated during the regular season, you know, was really kind of unheard of, and I'd be lying if I said we knew exactly that that's what we were going to get out of him, is you really weren't sure. He got better and better each week. He did a great job in the springtime, and he's really done, from what I understand, a great job this summer of really growing into that leadership role and being the guy on offense that's getting everybody lined up. If you're going to be young, which we are, there's got to be somebody that they can look to on the field of play that kind of has the answers, and that's the one thing that you have a little bit of confidence in, is that you got the guy who's pulling the trigger. He's got a whole season of experience and took his team all the way to the national championship game. So I think there's some fundamental things that we really spent a lot of time with him last spring, and I know he worked a lot on in the summertime in terms of footwork and the little things that he can get better. But we need for Darren to improve because he doesn't have the benefit and the luxury of having Jeff Mayle and Drew Davis and some of those other guys around him. He may have to shoulder the load a little bit more as we bring those young guys along. So, Rob?
Is everybody here and ready to go? The guys you signed in February, specifically Rashawn Vaughn, and then is there anybody still recovering from a surgery or anything that's not yet full?
No, everybody's here. They've all reported. They're all gone through compliance. The entire class that was signed in February is here and participating, and everybody is full go right now for practice, so they'll all be running around out there.
Coach, you placed a lot of players in the NFL training camps that are going on right now. How much input or how many questions do you get from these NFL scouts and coaches about your players?
We get a lot. You know, it's a very thorough process from the National Football League down. They kind of want to ask everything, you know, and it's more of, I think they'll make their decisions based upon film and their evaluations, but I think a lot of their questions are more of the background things. How do they practice? What are their leadership skills? What do they like off the field? You know, all the things that I think when you turn the tape on, you may not be able to see. And we, you know, I think people trust us because we're honest and we tell them the truth. You know, I think some of those teams screwed up because I think a lot more of our players should have been drafted, but I don't know much about football, I guess. So, you know, we went to the national championship game and had one kid drafted, but I will guarantee you that a lot of those guys that went in as undrafted free agents will make an impact at the next level. Just because the one thing that you can't tell sometimes when you turn the tape on is how hard do they practice, how dedicated are they to the game of football, and if you want me to bet on Jeff Mayle or Drew Davis or Brandon Bear, I'll bet they'll make it.
Chip, you mentioned only 8 seniors who have started, but a lot of experience back, a lot of players who played last year, especially on defense, playing so many people. And getting to the championship game, how much should that factor the success of a year ago coming into this year?
Well, we hope a lot. You know, I think we're all byproducts of our experiences. I think the fact that we do play a lot of guys, you know, is specifically if you look at the D-line, just for instance, is you lost Kenny and Brandon and Zach. And, you know, so everybody's like, well, you have to replace 3 starters. But really, they were a group of 9 guys that rotated. So instead of us defensively saying, hey, we need to find 3 new starters, what we really need to find right now is number 7, 8, and 9 in the defensive line rotation. Because Ricky Hamuli, Wade Kilakipe, Taylor Hart, Terrell Turner, Dion Jordan, Brandon Hanna have all played a ton of football. You know, we feel pretty good about that group right now. But now who's the 7th, who's the 8th, who's the 9th is really what it is. So sometimes I think when you do look at it and say, oh my God, we lost these 3 guys, but because of what we do in terms of playing so many guys, and I think it was our rotation ended up being about 25 guys on defense last year, is that even though guys didn't start they've still got quality snaps in every game that we played, and we hope that, you know, that'll be a plus for us, is that developing depth is part of playing depth. I think you can't be afraid to not play guys, especially early, and kids are going to make mistakes, and we understand that, but I think the only way they're going to get better is when you kind of throw them in the deep end and teach them how to swim a little bit, but you just can't keep them on the edge of the pool the whole time and then all of a sudden say, well, we have nobody to go, now it's your chance to go in a game, and the kid has no experience. Is that, you know, we'll continue to have the same philosophy of rotating, you know, 9 defensive linemen and 6 linebackers and 10 DBs, and eventually that I guess our rotation, to kind of talk like a basketball coach, will kind of flesh itself out.